Hey there, my friend. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, founder here at the Fit Father Project and the Fit Mother Project. And today's video is special. My team and I, we decided to put together a presentation on how to have a stronger immune system naturally. Because with everything going on in the world right now, it's a topic on a lot of people's minds. So we want to put together this presentation to teach you how your immune system works and what you can do with your nutrition, your sleep, your exercise, and your supplementation to increase your immune strength, make your body more resilient to not just viruses and bacteria, but also stress. Now this presentation, it's longer than your average video because we actually get into some of the research-backed proven methods you can increase your immune system, boost your immune strength at home, safely and naturally. I know you'll really enjoy today's presentation and find it very valuable for both yourself and your family. Enjoy today's presentation and I'll see you in there. So first off, I just want to talk the philosophy of our bodies. What we consider our bodies, these physical bodies we're in, is a constituency of 37 trillion different cells. And these cells are all interacting dynamically. There's cells in the eyes that are able to receive light. There's cells in the nerves that can transmit that signal to the brain. There's cells in the brain that leads to this experience of basically being aware. And cells are constantly living and dying. We think of ourselves as alive, but cells are constantly dying. I think there are around 1 million cells in our bodies that die every second. Just think about that for a second. 1 million cells die every second. You just lost 3 million cells right there. This is constantly happening, and it's absolutely amazing. But the thing that's even more amazing than this is that 57% of those cells are non-human, meaning they're not you. They are viruses, they're bacteria, they're fungi. So what we think of ourselves is actually this hodgepodge of all the things that are living inside of us as well, on our skin. These are some pictures of bacteria that are on the skin. We're going to look at the digestive tract, and this is essential to understand. We are not just humans, and there is not just bacteria. We are kind of like a superorganism in a way. And the reason we have an immune system is this: to maintain balance. That is the immune system's primary function and job, is to maintain balance. Because look, we have these microbes. They're living on our skin and our digestive tract, and we do just great. We have a symbiotic relationship. We help them survive. They help us thrive. But when things get out of balance, that's when the immune system steps in. It steps in to reestablish that balance and to make sure that the balance is maintained during times of peace. So let's look at the immune system. It is absolutely incredible. This is a graphic that we're going to come back to in concept here. The first place where I want to direct your attention is to that big bone in the arm that says bone marrow. So your immune system, we often hear of the idea of white blood cells, we'll talk about those in a second, are actually produced in the center of your long bones. Inside that marrow, that's where these immune cells are produced. And we've heard of the idea of stem cells. A lot of people want to get stem cells on their face and all their sagging bits and parts. Well, guess what? Those stem cells actually live inside that bone marrow. And they're cells that have the ability to turn into all different types of cells. And one of the main cell lines they turn into are immune cells. So we have them in the bone marrow. But there's also very specific immune-centric organs in the body. One of the ones that not everyone people knows. How many people know they have a thymus gland? Well, you have a thymus gland. It's that thing that's kind of right where the heart looks like it's be. It's like a butterfly-shaped gland, and it's where basically our immune cells go to school. When they get born, they migrate to the thymus gland, and they're educated, and they differentiate, and they turn into more advanced types of immune cells that have different functions. Then we have this organ called the spleen, where it filters all of our blood. Immune cells aggregate there, and then where those green things all throughout the body are lymph nodes, these little chains and bulbs where immune cells pocket up in different areas of the body. We've all felt swollen lymph nodes under our neck when we get sick. We've felt them maybe in our armpits and down in our groin. We have this whole lymphatic chain where the immune system is, because the immune system needs to be everywhere. It is everywhere, and it needs to be able to operate in all these different areas of the body. And of course, in the mouth, in the throat area, we have the tonsils, which is very important because we're going to look at how things get into the system. And the final thing, we have that little appendix that a lot of people get rid of, but that's actually very important. It has a lot of gut bacteria in there. And then we have an immune system in the gut called Peyer's patches. The point is for not you guys to know any of this specifically, but just to look at the diffuse concept that the immune system is everywhere. And it really actually starts inside the bones. So this is the situation when the immune system kicks in. When the natural balance system becomes unbalanced. The immune system's job is to restore balance. And I want to get into like the big picture of how this may happen in the analogy of a splinter. So we have a little piece of wood that has some foreign things that aren't normally in the body, those little blue things. It punctures the skin lining. So the skin's normally that barrier, right? And then it gets in there, and those blue guys, which in this case we're going to call bacteria, enter the body, they start dividing, they start eating. And so what happens is those purple guys are immune cells. They get attracted to the area and they start gobbling up those bacteria. They release different kinds of chemical messengers to create swelling, heat, warmth, and pain to get blood flow to drive up to the area so they can actually clean up the injury site. The same thing happens when you sprain an ankle, except instead of fighting bacteria, the immune system is getting in there to clean up a damaged ligament. Of course, this is on top of mind right now for a lot of people. There's lots of ways that stuff enters the body, and a lot of these nasorespiratory viruses come in through the air we breathe, the food we eat, and it gets into that tract. That's also why we see that the tonsils in particular, in the adenoid area, we have these immune system patches in the mouth because look, we're getting lots of stuff coming into the body. And this is also why it is important for all of our health for us to learn to be nose breathers too, because the nose itself is one of our immune system's main barriers of entry. We have the mucus that's in the nose, we have those hair cells, and all of that helps trap dust, bacteria, viruses, et cetera, that are trying to enter. And it's like the first line defense. We're not meant to breathe through our mouth. That's just a small aside. And so the immune system's job, maintain balance. It's to battle the bacteria and to keep this kind of game of arm wrestling going, because not all stuff that we consider bacteria or viruses are bad. In fact, a lot of them are very beneficial. It's just when they're in the right balance, and certain bad guys that aren't normal, when they get into the body, it's the immune system's job to step in and regain the balance. So these are some of the typical bad guys as we see, and they come in two main categories: those things that are living and those things that are not living. So in the cellular living category, we have things like parasites. Not too many of us have that experience here in the Western world, but for developing countries, it's a big deal, getting tapeworms and stuff like that. We have protozoa, which are like organisms that are a lot more complex and big in size than a bacteria. I think if people ever drink lake water and get diarrhea, that's often from like Giardia is a common protozoa, or malaria, another mosquito protozoa is something that's fairly common. A lot of us have had fungal infections, whether it's athlete's foot or tinea growing on the skin. That's another invasive potentially species. And then we have lots of different kinds of bacteria that we have, staph, E. coli, streptococcus. We've heard a lot of these names. And then we have this other class of bad guys, which are viruses and prions, mostly viruses. And these are actually not living. In a weird way, they're just kind of like genetic material that likes to replicate itself. In the case of viruses, and requires a host cell to do so. So it's fascinating because the kind of nutrition approach when you're fighting something like a bacteria is different than what you do if you're fighting a virus. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And then prions are very rare and not that important to talk about. It just happened to be on the graphic. These are the things that cause mad cow disease. And that's basically just a folded protein that causes other proteins to get folded in weird ways. So the good guys are leukocytes. Or white blood cells. Leuko is Greek for leukos, meaning white, cyte is cell. And so when we get like blood work done and we're looking at how our immune system is, oftentimes they're looking at white blood cell counts and which types of different blood cells are in there. And these are the guys that are essentially our line of defense. And so in our blood at any given time, there are red blood cells, which are those disc-shaped guys in the back. And their job is essentially to have iron inside of them and to transport oxygen to tissues that need it, like all over the body. They're constantly being pumped around and they're having oxygen. And for your information, a red blood cell, it's kind of cool, lives for 120 days. We have 360 days out of the year. So a lot of our calendar stuff is actually weirdly synced up with our biology. It's pretty cool. And then we have white blood cells here as well that exist in the blood. And their job obviously is to fight the invaders. And then we have whatever we ate in the blood as well. Blood sugars, et cetera, amino acids, fats being transported. And this is what's happening in our blood every single minute. Now, there's two stages of the immune system's response to invaders. And this graphic goes into the two stages. The first stage is called the innate immune response. So we have immunity is the big thing, and then we have two branches. We're going to talk about them individually. The innate immune response is the quick, dirty, and fast stage. There are certain immune cells called macrophages and neutrophils. These guys basically just gobble things up. This is what they do. There are cells that cruise around and they just eat stuff. They don't even really care what they eat. They just eat stuff in this process called phagocytosis. So they get to that injury site very quickly, or they get to that infection very quickly, and they start gobbling up bacteria, but they're kind of brutes. So they end up causing damage to some of our other tissues. So the beauty of having an innate immune response is it's fast. It can get to the sites very quickly, and we need that to get ahead of some of these infections. But there's drawbacks. It's not very specific. It can cause damage to our own tissues. So we have a second branch of the immune response, which is called the adaptive immune response. And this is where we have specialized white blood cells that produce things like antibodies. We hear that as a buzzword a lot. Well, today you're going to actually know what those are, which is pretty cool. And the adaptive immune response is strong, targeted, and specific. So these are some of your adaptive immune cells. There's so many different kinds of them. I just want to quickly go over, it doesn't matter that you necessarily know this, because we're going to get into like the practical what do I do stuff in just a second, but I just think it's beautiful to kind of explore the complexity of the system. These cells are kind of named in complicated ways by biologists, et cetera, for typically membrane surface proteins that have on there. Those guys on the left, the guy that looks like a ninja, the CD8 T cell, his job is to kill cancer cells and virally infected cells. He's actually like a killer cell. Where the guy on the very far right, the CD4 T cell, is actually a helper cell. His job is actually to help the CD8 T cell work better. He doesn't do too much killing. He just kind of cruises around and like helps all the other cells work better. We have B cells, which are a special kind of white blood cell that produce antibodies, those little protein projections on the cell, and those things fly out like spaceships. You can think of like a Star Wars movie, and they go and they swarm the bad cells. Those B cells are the ones that produce antibodies. And then we even have cells called regulatory T cells that prevent the immune system from getting out of whack. They actually tell the immune system to calm down. So this is like a whole orchestra of stuff that's happening in our bodies at all the times, and it's amazing the kind of intelligence that's in this system. This is a really cool picture of what it might look like to have a CD8 killer cell attaching to a cancer cell. It detects on the surface of that cell that there are proteins that are not right, some foreign proteins. That cell is expressed on it, and they go in and they either tell that cell to kill itself and program cell death, or they actually puncture it or do all sorts of things that actually kills that cell. This is what's going on all the time, every single second throughout our bodies. We have cells that are cancerous in origin that are being killed all throughout our lifetimes. You know, babies have cancer cells that are being born and then killed and taken care of. It's just as we get older, our immune system gets older too. It's called the process of senescence. It kind of gets weaker and older. That's why there's a higher prevalence of cancers as the immune system lets down its guard into old age. That's why it's absolutely essential we do the things I'm going to share in today's presentation to keep the immune system strong. So this is cool. Look at that blue cell. That is what we're calling that B cell or that plasma cell. And what it's doing is kicking off antibodies that are attaching to those orangish cells, which are representative of something that's infected. So those are what antibodies are. They're little proteins that go and attach to infected cells. They're specific to that exact thing. So you have antibodies to a cell that's infected with a strain of a flu virus. You have antibodies that are specific to a cell that's affected with a coronavirus. The antibodies are specific, and that's what makes them very targeted. It doesn't damage all our other cells. It just really gets to the heart of the matter. And these antibodies, one, can deactivate the cell itself, can kill the cell, or can tell other cells to come by and actually clean up the issue too. So there's a lot of functions of them. And this is just another graphic of what those antibodies look. They kind of look like forks, and they just swarm and attach to the surface of the cell. So when we hear things like antibody therapies, that's essentially ways that we can actually deliver into someone's body a specific antibody for a specific thing, and it may help the body. And once we actually, I'll get into the memory bit in just a second, but this is kind of what antibodies are. So this is the memory. So once we actually are infected with something, let's say we got the chicken pox and then we cleared that virus, we have these cells called memory cells that live for a very long time. They have lots of mitochondria. They live for a very long time, and they basically remember what it was like to fight that one cell. So the next time you get exposed to that chicken pox virus, your body's like, I got this. And it immediately causes that specific B cell to reproduce, and it kicks off the antibodies and nips the infection in the bud before it ever happens. So that's what we call memory or immunity. It happens when we have these memory cells, and they're produced during and after infection, and they live for a very, very long time. So it's a really cool system. So in summary of basically what we covered is the immune system is this multi-organ system of defense against viruses, bacteria, cancer, and more. It's there to maintain balance because we now know that our bodies are not just human cells. They're a concert of all these different cells. And we largely call our immune cells white blood cells. These are produced in the bone marrow, lymph nodes, spleen, and thymus gland. And the immune system has those two branches, the speed, non-specific, and then the specific targeted system. And after winning a battle, the immune system creates the memory cells that'll make the body's future response to a particular invader faster and more effective. So that's the immune system. And there are so many specifics. There are people who literally spend their entire lives studying the intricacies of all this happened, but I think it's a pretty good big picture overview to see how things work. So now let's get into the bulk of this. Like, how do we actually strengthen the immune system? What are the action steps that we can take? Well, I want to start with philosophy, because I think philosophy is the most important part of understanding health. And the philosophy component is that health in a strong immune system is our body's natural condition. The vast majority of the things that we're going to talk about in today's presentation are due to the fact that we are living lives outside of our body's natural rhythms. So we are disrupting the immune system's natural health through what we're doing and what we're not doing. The immune system is designed to be healthy on its own. It's only when we junk things up that we run into problems. This is a picture of, I think, an old farmer somewhere in Indonesia, probably in his late 70s, early 80s. Looks fantastic, very healthy, probably worked outside his entire life, never wore sunscreen once. Healthy, energetic, vibrant, peaceful body. And this is what we see here in Western society, right? And we can imagine that the immune system of these two individuals is going to be a lot different because of the foods that's being eaten, the amount of adipose tissue that's on the body, and the lifestyle stuff, the blue lights. We're going to get into some of this. So the first key point to understand, though, is our lifestyle is the biggest factor in our immune system. It's not that you're deficient in a particular immune boosting supplement that's going to be the key. It's how do you align your life in a way that's going to enable the immune system to function as it normally should. So first, before we talk about anything else, we need to understand to have a strong immune system, we want to reestablish our body's harmony with Mother Nature and her cycles. I cannot stress this enough. And one of the main cycles that drives our entire biology is the light and dark cycle. Sun comes up, sun goes down, pretty reliably for our entire lives, right? And it turns out that this sunlight triggers incredible changes to our immune system. We are biocircadian beings. All of our main hormones, the stuff that Dr. Sherlina will talk about later, are controlled by these biological clocks. And so we need to make sure that our body is synced up to this light cycle. So practically speaking, this is really cool to think about. This is, I don't know if you're able to see this well, and it's not important that you know all the specifics, but let's look over on the, basically at around 3 o'clock, which is 6 a.m. on the clock. From 6 a.m. all the way around the circle, there are dramatic changes that happen with your physiology. Your blood pressure is highest, is a sharp rise in blood pressure in the morning as cortisol rises. Melatonin production stops around 7:30 a.m. You often have a bowel movement in the morning. You're very alert at 10. You have higher coordination because the nervous system is primed by around 2:30. Your reaction time is fastest around 3. Your cardiovascular inefficiency is higher at 5. Your blood pressure peaks at 6:30 at night. So does your body temperature, and then it starts to cool down. Melatonin starts to secrete itself at night. Bowel movements are suppressed at night as the digestive system rests, and then we hit deep sleep early in the morning, REM sleep right before we wake up, and then the cycle repeats itself. And this is all based on patterns of light. Our body does this automatically. And here's exactly what happens. Light enters the eyes, right? We have this sensation of light, and it gets to an area of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And that affects a whole bunch of different brain systems. And one of the main things it does is it actually promotes alertness in the morning, and it also promotes the production of serotonin. So this is I'm going to give you throughout the rest of this presentation some quotes from some research. In some instances, I'll read them all. In others, I will just paraphrase them. But I think this one is worth reading. The light-induced effects of serotonin are triggered by sunlight that goes in through the eye. Sunlight cues special areas in the retina, which triggers the release of serotonin, which is that feel-good neurotransmitter. When people are depressed, we often give them drugs that increase serotonin. So you're more likely to experience type of depression in the wintertime, like seasonal depression when days are shorter and there's less light. Given the relationship between sunshine and serotonin is probably a multimediated phenomenon, another contributing facet may be the role of sunshine on the human skin. Why do I bring this up? Well, serotonin that we get in the morning not only helps us feel good, but later in the day, it gets converted into melatonin. They sound pretty similar, and if you look at them, they look pretty similar, and it's because they are. There's a minor transformation that happens on the chemical level to produce melatonin, and here's the key. Melatonin is huge for the immune system. It is one of our best immune boosters, period. And this gets into some sciencey stuff, but basically know from this quote, melatonin enhances both the innate, that quick immune response, And the cellular, that adaptive response, it stimulates the production of all your different kinds of immune cells, and that occurs after melatonin supplementation. But we don't need to supplement melatonin because we produce it naturally as long as we're living in relation to those light-dark cycles. So what normally happens is in the morning, I'll orient you to the blue squiggly here. In the morning, we have this hormone called cortisol that spikes in the morning. That gives us this feeling of alertness, wants us to get out of bed. And then cortisol is normally supposed to drop later in the day, and melatonin is start to pick up around 6 p.m. You can see on there on like different like seesaw curves. So cortisol is high in the morning, melatonin is low, and at night, cortisol is supposed to drop, melatonin is supposed to rise. Cortisol suppresses your immune system. It's a stress hormone. When your body's under stress, it's dealing with the immediate stress. So it's trying to release blood sugar, suppress longer term goals like having an immune system that fights cancer. And so cortisol is a good hormone in balance. But the problem is when we have a very stressed chronic life and we're not getting proper sleep and light cycles, cortisol is chronically elevated, suppressing your immune system, and melatonin often gets very low. And we know that melatonin is one of your greatest immune stimulating compounds. So this is why rhythm is everything. Again, it comes down to this balance. We want both functioning, but this is what we practically need to do. We need to start getting morning sunshine before noon. You know, it depends on your skin tone about how much sunshine you need, but I'd like you to get some sunshine, kind of direct sunshine in your eyes. I get it before I put my contact lenses in. Get it on your skin, because we're going to talk about vitamin D3 and the immune system in a little bit. So you want that morning sunshine that entrains your brain through the light to say, hey, look, it is light time. Let's get this rhythm on check. At night, we need to make sure that we're getting rid of the blue light disruption. All those screens, the phones, the TVs, they emit a very specific wavelength of light called blue light that disrupts melatonin production. Quite frankly, almost halts it. So this is the problem. Most of us are not getting morning sunshine, unless you live in Arizona right now, right? Or you're getting blue light disruption late at night. So this is why we need to manage this. And I'd also say stuff around having consistent bedtime, optimizing your bedroom itself so that it's of a cool temperature and as dark as possible without any flickering lights, etc., is going to be one of the best things you can do for your immune system. The quality of your sleep is directly proportional to the quality of your immune system. A lot of it has to do with melatonin, but I personally believe you can achieve this naturally without needing to supplement. So action step number 1, there's going to be 10 of these in this talk, and they're going to come a little faster because we've done a lot of the background pre-work with the philosophy stuff, is to align your lifestyle with natural circadian rhythms. And the benefit is higher unregulated melatonin naturally, lower stress, and properly regulated cortisol, which also helps control your blood sugars and your weight. So the reflection question I have for you, and you don't have to answer this now, maybe just jot it down, is how can I improve my sleep and my morning and evening routines to better align my body with an optimal circadian rhythm? So nutrition and immune function is going to be our next topic we're going to dive into. How does the foods we eat affect how our immune system functions? And a lot of us do start to think, oh, I heard that vitamin C was good, or I heard that zinc was good, and vitamin A, but that's actually the wrong way to think about this first. The best way to think about this is in relation to sugar. Because again, our bodies have a great ability to have a strong immune system, but we're not used to dealing with constantly high bombarded amounts of processed sugar. And sugar basically makes our white blood cells act like they're drunk. A research study done by Loma Linda University, in which participants were fed sugar, found the effectiveness of white blood cells, our immune cells that fight the infections, decreased by up to 50% after 1 to 2 hours of eating sugar. And that effect lasts for 5 hours. So just think about this. What the average person often does, those on Revivery here are a little more health conscious, obviously, but the average person is easily getting a bolus of sugar every 5 hours or so, right? And so who are we finding now with this COVID pandemic that is most susceptible to dying? Those that are older, right? The immune system's not as functional. And those that have diabetes. Why is that? The whole blood system is bathed in sugar, and high blood pressure and comorbidities, as they like to say like this. It's because you have a massively depressed immune system. And this is why sugar is the enemy of the immune system. But, so here's a cute little graphic. Immune cell after eating sugar is not feeling happy. But not all sugar is the same experience for the immune system. It's not as simple as just saying sugar bad. It gets a little more complicated, and there's beauty in this nuance. So this is we're going to show 2 cups of blueberries versus 1 16-ounce bottle of Sprite soda. It's actually probably around a cup and quarter of blueberries. Imagine there was 2 of those. Each of these contains 30 grams of sugar. But we all kind of had the intuition that this is a slightly different experience for the body. 30 grams of sugar from blueberries, a little different than 30 grams of sugar from a Sprite soda. And it's absolutely true. There was a study that did an analysis of 446 compounds for their ability to boost the immune system. This was done at the Linus Pauling Institute, which is a great nutrition research center. And they found that 2 compounds in particular stood out from that crowd they tested. They found that it was the resveratrol found in the red grapes and a compound called pterostilbene from blueberries. So there are actually foods that uniquely affect the immune system. And it happens to be a lot of this fresh produce, as we're going to see. But the point is, it's more that we need to look at the added processed sugars, not necessarily the sugar that might come in the form of some of these foods like a blueberry that has tremendous immune boosting benefits. So I'm going to throw up some very low res graphics, but I think I snagged these from Google quickly for this presentation, but I want to illustrate a couple things. So when we're looking at foods that are good for the immune system, these foods are by and large very colorful. We all heard that oranges and citrus fruits are great for the immune system. They are. They're packed with vitamin C, right? We have grapefruits, lemons, all different kinds of citrus. They're really great. But what most people don't realize is actually some of the greens like kale, chard, etc., spinach actually have more vitamin C than some of the citrus fruits. So we want greens. We want those yellow colors in the oranges from the citrus. Carrots have vitamin A in them, which is phenomenal for the immune system. It actually helps mucous membranes and fights viruses. We're going to talk about some of the spices like cinnamon and garlic that are actually antiviral, antimicrobial. Mushrooms, we're going to talk about those as well. They have special compounds in them that actually boost the immune system. And of course, berries. We talked about berries as well. And something that I think was really cool is some people have heard that like ketchup and tomatoes are good for lycopene. Well, it turns out that lycopene is actually highest in watermelons. Watermelons have 40% more lycopene than tomatoes, and lycopene actually helps fight cancer too and can prevent sunburns. So the point is, a lot of these foods in their natural state, they're very colorful, just like these, are things that are good for our immune system. And I think we intuitively know this. We look at these things, we're like, yeah, that's probably good for me. So it comes down to, we're going to talk about the importance of eating a wide variety of colorful foods, really amazing for the immune system. So the main point here when we're looking at immune system nutrition is to limit added sugars and then to eat colorful food, because the color of these things literally comes from those special immune boosting phytochemicals that our bodies thrive on. The stuff that makes blueberries blue are the antioxidants and the immune stimulating compounds. So eat a colorful diet. If your food is looking very bland, so there's a difference between eating a colorful diet like this and eating something that someone might traditionally consider quote unquote healthy, like chicken and brown rice. Just doesn't compare, right? Something that's a chicken breast and a little bit of brown rice does not compare to the color and the diversity of the stuff you're going to get when you eat a colorful diet. And so there are a couple key vitamins and minerals that are great for the immune system. One of the first ones is a mineral called zinc. Zinc is typically found in a lot of seafood, meats, and beans, whole grains, seeds, and nuts. And zinc is of particular importance right now with all the coronavirus stuff going around, because there is some really cool, promising research showing that zinc actually both prevents the coronavirus from entering into cells and prevents it from using something called RNA-dependent RNA polymerase that allows it to replicate. So zinc blocks the replication and maybe even the entering, as well as stimulating the immune system production. So zinc is very important, could be a good thing to supplement, and that's when you see a lot of these cold lozenges, if you will. A lot of these basically have zinc in them because they're really great. Another classic immune booster is vitamin C. So again, this is going to be found in a lot of those citrus fruits, the broccoli, cantaloupe, tomatoes, strawberries, and it protects cells from oxidative stress from free radicals. We won't get into exactly what that means, but it also helps the body produce immune cells. And I think that vitamin C supplementation is a good idea during times like these, where you don't need to go overboard, but 500 milligrams to a gram once per day, 500 milligrams maybe once or twice a day is a fine thing. In addition to perhaps eating a lot of these, not perhaps, but absolutely eating a lot of these vitamin C containing foods. Vitamin A is the stuff that makes like carrots orange, bell peppers and sweet potatoes, the red and yellow. And it's amazing because it actually helps regulate the immune response versus viruses specifically. And we know that our whole digestive tract and our nose is lined by this mucosal membrane, this like soft tissue that has like the mucousy stuff on it. Well, the immune system is concentrated in there, and vitamin A helps keep that on point basically and very tight and nice. And vitamin B6 as well basically helps all these different chemical reactions. And then I cannot stress enough vitamin D3. found in foods like sunshine, my favorite food that has vitamin D3, is the easiest way for your body to produce it in its most perfect state. Mushrooms, salmon, sardines, egg yolks, and foods fortified with D3 are essential because what we found is that vitamin D3 receptors are found on all white blood cells. You think it's important for the immune system that every immune cell has a vitamin D3 receptor? I think so. And this is also why the sunshine not only helps you entrain that rhythm in the morning, but gives you your natural vitamin D3. And also, it's very overlooked, especially in Western nutrition, is the use of spices. Spices have medicinal healing properties: turmeric, ginger, cayenne, cinnamon, garlic. These spices are truly healing in their nature. Cinnamon's antiviral. Garlic kills a whole bunch of things. So does onion, by the way. Ginger, really great for digestion, as well as having some anti-inflammatory properties, as well as turmeric. So adding more spices into our diet is another way to add color into our diets. Absolutely phenomenal. Like, the spices are truly medicinal, not just for flavor. So action steps 2 through 5. Avoid sugar unless it's naturally occurring in produce. I do not worry about the amount of sugar in my watermelon or the sugar in the blueberries. You know, if you are on a specifically following a low carb ketogenic diet, then yes, having things like watermelon and blueberries would kick you out of your keto. This is also why I personally have the stance that a more balanced diet over the long haul that's not super low carbohydrate is going to be most optimal for human health, because you're kind of throwing out the baby with the bathwater in the sense where you can't have blueberries because you're on keto. It's a little bit of a shame, in my opinion. So be especially mindful of the sugar that's creeping into beverages. Like, if you want to get as much sugar as possible, go to Starbucks and order anything that doesn't say skinny on it, right? So there's just sugar everywhere in the sodas, the drinks. Eat as many colorful foods as possible. Get 1 big serving of greens a day. So this is a great habit. Like, if you can commit to actually getting some greens every single day, you can buy the pre-washed greens from the grocery store and then toss in some spices. I like to put some salt, pepper, turmeric. I put a little, you can even do a little cinnamon. Like, my wife Paige loves cinnamon. She put it in her hair, put it on anything. So use these spices more, get it on the greens. And now we would be remiss in not talking about gut health when it comes to your immune system. And I know I'm going fast. We will record this. I just want to make sure I can give you guys as much value in the time we have allotted here.
Dr. Anthony,
yeah.
Dr. Anthony, one quick question. Do you want to pause for questions at the end, or people to raise?
End. I'm on a roll, baby.
Let's roll.
Okay. So we got this digestive system. And I think a lot of people, and Revivery participants certainly know this, but it's the analogy, not the analogy, the actual fact that your body is essentially a tube. From your mouth all the way out to your anus, you are a tube. And in a very real sense, this tube is outside of your body. It's kind of like if you were to drive a car through an underground river tunnel. Like, this river tunnel is going through the river. The whole tunnel itself is underwater, but the car is not actually in the river. It's driving through the river. And this is why, if we had a long enough piece of string, you could put it on one end of the mouth and out the butt, and you could truly floss somebody from both ends. It's a very graphic visual, but I really want you to understand that there is this tube that food has to run through, and then it needs to get assimilated into this tube to actually enter the body. And this is why, just like the skin, which is loaded with microbes, all the different bacteria lives on our skin, these guys also live in every aspect of the digestive tract. These are the probiotics, the good gut bacteria. And so this tube is so key, because guess where our immune system is concentrated? In this tube. It's concentrated because this is where stuff's coming in. So did you know your body's a tube? Well, you certainly do now. And this is truly the highway of life. This is where the foods we eat, they get broken down. And we know that having a healthy digestive system is essential for lowering inflammation in the body. It's the quality of the nutrition that we eat that's able to assimilate. It's absolutely amazing how complex this is. And here's the even crazier part of it, is this entire border of your digestive tract. This is like a little fingered projection of that, called a microvilli, is just one simple columnar cell thick. It's literally just one cell thick. And the reason it has to be this way is because we need to have the ability to get those small nutrients, those small sugars and amino acids, to diffuse through this very thin layer. And at the same time, we need to be able to keep the bad guys out. So this is why the immune system is centered in the digestive tract. Now I'm going to go back and forth for a second. You see these like finger-like projections on slide 1? We're going to zoom out, and you can see that those finger-like projections are a little farther away now. And below them, where that arrow is pointing, is a place called a Peyer's patch. And this is the immune system that's lining your digestive tract. It's like a 1 to 10 ratio, 1 immune cell for every 10 cells that line the digestive tract. So there's such a huge preponderance of immune cells in the GI tract. And so having a healthy digestion system, which fasting like we're doing today is helping, is key for a good immune system. And it's because we have this gut microbiome that has all the viruses and bacteria that are operating with our immune system to help us fight things. So we often find that like what happens is when people get very sick and they take a lot of antibiotics and it nukes their gut bacteria, they often get opportunistic infections, like something like C. diff, which is a hospital infection that's very hard to get rid of. You get diarrhea all the time. You feel absolutely lousy. And it's because the good bacteria normally protect us from these bad guys coming into the body. So we need to take care of them. And basically, this is a quote that says that the immune system is 75% centered in the gut, and the microorganisms, the 100 trillion live microorganisms that live with us, are helping us maintain this healthy immune system. And so there are two buzzwords that I want to deep hack for you. One is probiotics. These are actually the bacteria or the yeast or the microorganisms that we want to get into our bodies. And there's prebiotics, which are the food that they eat. So probiotics we're going to find those in a lot of these fermented foods like yogurt, fermented yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, certain aged cheeses, or you can take supplements, but these are the probiotic supplements. And then those bacteria eat fiber. They eat prebiotic fiber. So guess why we want to eat so many colorful different foods? It's because they have the fiber that the gut bacteria thrive on. And when they have enough food and they're happy, they protect us. So it's almost like our job when we're thinking about immune system centered nutrition to get those kind of prebiotic fibers in. And certain great sources are things like Jerusalem artichoke, onions, leek, garlic, oats, bananas, and of course, all the other fruits and vegetables that we had. The fiber that they contain is what these guys thrive on. So the action steps so far is to identify a probiotic food that you love and get it into your diet regularly. This could be sauerkraut. Especially if you like that kind of like dill, saltier taste. It could be a kind of fermented yogurt if you can tolerate dairy. I personally have been eating a lot of coconut kefir, which is a fermented coconut yogurt that's delicious. There's kimchi, which is like a spicy sauerkraut kind of thing. You also want to eat a lot of colorful plant foods because, again, they have the fibers that these guys thrive on, and specifically some particularly prebiotic fibers. I think garlic, onions, unripe bananas, asparagus, dandelion greens, these are great things to include in your diet. I don't want you to necessarily stress about this too much, being like, oh my gosh, did I get my Jerusalem artichoke today? Like, it's not that, doesn't need to be micromanaged that much. If you focus on colorful and wide variety, you know you're getting the fiber that your gut bacteria needs. Next, let's talk about some exercise and the immune system. So obviously our bodies are built to move, and it's not going to be surprising to learn that exercise has a profound effect on our immune strength. And in my opinion, there's basically two types of exercise we're going to talk about. There's daily walking, aka daily movement, and formal workouts. And it turns out, for the purpose of boosting your immune system, that the former, daily walking, is more important. Our bodies are built to move. This is pretty cool. So 30 minutes of brisk walking increases the circulation of natural killer cells, white blood cells, and other immune system warriors. This effect persists for 3 hours after the walk. So when we move our bodies, we get that blood flow pumping, we get some sunshine, the immune system increases. And so guess what? We should be walking multiple times per day, as much as we can, honestly, for good health. And that's going to help our immune system naturally rise. And so daily walking is absolutely key for good health. One of my actual habits is I get up in the morning, I'll rehydrate with water, and I go outside, I get sun on my skin, and I take a walk in the morning. So I'm getting the sunshine, I'm getting the fresh air, and I'm getting some movement early in the morning to stimulate my immune system. So the question almost begs itself is like, how many formal workouts though? How many times do I need to do my high intensity soul cycle class or et cetera? Like, how many times do I need to actually go work out? Well, in my opinion, we'll get there in just a second on the exact number, but I want to share this first, is that 30 to 60 minutes a day of moderate intensity aerobic exercise, think like brisk walking, cycling, or running, seems to be best when it comes to boosting the immune system. Weightlifting may prove to be just as effective, but more study is needed. And it's not to say weightlifting doesn't have unique benefits, because it certainly does for your metabolic health, just for the immune system. The key thing here is, though, when you go too long at too high of an intensity, the stress hormone cortisol goes up and the immune system does not respond well. This is why when we look at a lot of like collegiate athletes and people who are exercising a lot, drinking a lot of alcohol, and not sleeping well, they often get sick all the time, because they're stressing themselves out from so much high intensity exercise. So before I give you how many times I think you should exercise, it's almost something we need to auto regulate for ourselves. If you're going into a week and you know you're feeling like super run down and just like you're stressed from work and you're having to rely more on coffee to stay up, then the last thing you want to do for your immune system is to slam it with a super hard P90X style workout. It'd be better to like rest, recover, do lower intensity activity, because it all comes down to this balance thing that we've been talking about. Overall though, I'd say 3+ formal workouts a week spaced out is probably a good like heuristic if you want to give an actual number, because it gives you the metabolic benefit. Like after you do one of these higher intensity workouts, your metabolism's elevated for like 24 hours. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday spread out with daily walking would be a fine way to do it. Could be more for you, could be less. Like if you love working out every day, I'm not saying that's bad. You just need to keep in context of how much stress you're putting on your body and know when you are overtraining. So action steps 7 and 8, 30-minute daily walk, ideally to get the sunshine for the vitamin D3 and the sunshine in your eyes. 3+ formal workouts per week, ideally using strength training, because this has a profound benefit to muscle mass, metabolism, and stress resilience over the long haul. And the concept here is not too much, not too little, just right. Like you need to adapt your exercise demands based on your life, your sleep, your stress. When we look at the pockets of people around the world who live the longest, the centenarians, the people who consistently live to 100 plus, they're not doing high intensity workouts all the time. They don't have DVD players for P90X. They're walking all the time. They're farming. They're outside. They're gardening. They're doing daily activities. So for strictly the purposes of an immune system, daily activity, more important than formal workouts. Now, very relevant to what we're doing today is to look at the effect that fasting has on the immune system. We're talking about this idea and this philosophy of balance, and there's obviously the balance between eating and not eating. This is a cycle that the body goes through. Well, there's a couple different levels of fasting, and we'll talk about a 24-hour fast like we're doing basically right now, a little more than that, but a 24-hour fast. It turns out that there are not a massive change to the number of immune cells in a 24-hour fast. Basically, body kind of stays on regular status quo, doesn't increase them, doesn't decrease them. But during a 24-hour fast, your body does substantially decrease insulin. The blood sugars are stable, so the immune system is actually working well. And many inflammatory markers that have a bunch of different problems, those do decrease, which is a huge benefit to health. While also human growth hormone, which regenerates all of our cells, helps our cells repair, gets increased massively. We're talking in the scale of 1,000% plus increase can happen during the course of a fast. And also something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which builds new neurons in the brain that actually increases as well. Those are really two cool benefits. And those massive rises in both growth hormone, BDNF only happen during a period of not fasting. We have low levels of these things all the time, but fasting really accelerates this tremendously. And fasting increases this intracellular detoxification process called autophagy, where cells are basically able to break down bad damaged tissues, organelles, et cetera, and like digest them essentially, which is really great. And intermittent fasting actually switches on certain anti-aging genes like SIRT1 that promote longevity in both humans and animals. So 24-hour fasting, overall, great for your health. I would say good for your immune system, but this is where the magic really happens. Fasting for 3 days is incredible for the immune system. This is some research from Professor Longo out of USC Medical. He basically found that when putting both humans and animals on 3-day fasts, the immune system almost completely regenerates itself. All the stem cells in the bone marrow become active, and they start producing all different kinds of new white blood cells, like fresh ones, not the old ones that are getting senescent. And this is his exact direct quote, is fasting gives the okay for stem cells to go ahead and begin proliferating and rebuild the entire immune system. And the good news is the body get rid of parts of the system that might be damaged or old, the inefficient parts during fasting. And from the researchers, they were shocked. We could not predict that prolonged fasting would have such a remarkable effect at promoting stem cell-based regeneration of the hemopoietic system. So basically, wow, fasting for multiple days, like 3 days plus, really turns on the immune system. They're exploring this now in terms of fighting cancer because it's getting new good immune cells in there. For autoimmune diseases where the immune system's overactive, this could be a potential therapy. This is why the core basis of our actual full Revivery protocol involves a 3-day non-caloric fast. Because if they could literally put this in a pill, there would not be a single commercial that wouldn't be bought by these drug companies. This is incredible stuff, and the body can only do it naturally through periods of prolonged fasting. So a good FAQ question is, should I fast when I'm sick? This just came to mind when I was designing this presentation. I wanted to get into it. And I think that the adage here and what we know best is to starve a bacterial infection and to feed a viral infection. And what I mean by that is if you know that you're infected by an actual bacteria, so Josh, based on your history, you have like a very bad staph infection, and we know it's a bacteria, that bacteria eats sugar and it thrives on different kinds of nutrients we eat. So it's actually better to fast a bacterial infection to kind of starve it out. But something like a virus that is actually non-living, does not require our glucose to survive, it's better to actually feed the body in that instance to give it some more mojo. So what if you don't know, right? What if you're just like sick and you're like, I don't know, could be a virus, could be a bacteria. I'm just like, I've got a cough, I got a runny nose. These could be symptoms of either. I would say it's probably best to just eat lighter, cleaner, and moderate, kind of like a medium between these two. Just eat those healthy, colorful foods. Not too much is what to do when you are sick. If you can't identify it though, you can have a little more of a tailored strategy. So action steps 9, do regular 24-hour dinner to dinner fasts, ideally weekly. There's just so many health and metabolic benefits to it and good for your brain health as well. Come to a full recovery retreat and we'll do the 3-day fasting protocol with you, because this is something that's very powerful and it can be scary to do it on your first time. It's really nice to be a part of a group that's kind of like walking you through this and has all the different things you need to make sure it's done safely and effectively, and get you into an environment that's outside of your normal day-to-day, where you're involved with all the busyness of life so your body can actually rest and heal. So final action items, because I know we're coming up on time and we have already covered a lot, but I want to talk about a couple other things. First thing I want to talk about is like the importance of stress reduction. We've definitely talked about this in the overall concept of this talk, but I really want to hammer it home. Chronic stress elevates cortisol out of its natural rhythm. Cortisol is supposed to spike in the morning and then go down lower. But if we're stressed all the time, this is going to suppress the immune system, among these other problems, causes weight gain. Why do stressed out people actually experience more acne? Well, turns out when the immune system is suppressed, the bacteria that are normally in balance on the pores and in the skin are able to create inflammation. And it's because the cortisol has suppressed the immune system that kept everything in balance. Not surprisingly, you get higher susceptibility to infections, high blood pressure, risk of fractures, more anxiety. So stress reduction is key. If you feel like you're very stressed, we got to find you a healthy outlet. Exercise, meditation, prayer, nature walks, a healthier diet. All these things are key for our immune system. By the way, don't smoke. I didn't have a place to really put this in other than right here. And smoking is something that reliably totally decreases the immune system, damaging for your lungs. And a lot of these things that are happening right now, the viruses are respiratory viruses. So you definitely want as healthy of a lung tissue as possible. Smoking and the healthy immune system are not compatible. That's why smokers die early from all different kinds of things. So to continue action step 10, in addition to reducing stress, not smoking, the great news is there are certain supplements we can take on a regular basis that dramatically benefit the immune system. And on this slide, I want to cover some of these supplements, but the best news is we've already put these supplements inside Immune Booster RX. So you're going to be getting the benefits when you take this product. Now, the first compound, or class, I should say, of supplements that we put inside Immune Booster RX are the key vitamins and minerals that boost your immune system. So when we're eating all those colorful fruits and veggies and a lot of the spices, some of their benefits come from the fact that they have these vitamins in there. And in particular, it's essential that we get our bodies these vitamins for the immune system. Vitamin C. This is something a lot of people know boosts the immune system, and what we found that's fascinating is that immune cells, those white blood cells, actually concentrate vitamin C in them. Vitamin C is also an antioxidant, so it prevents those cells from undergoing free radical damage, and the immune cells actually get stimulated and get produced when vitamin C levels in the body are adequate. Now, the problem with a lot of these quote-unquote standard immune-boosting supplements is they load your body up with tons of vitamin C, way more than you need. Your body can only really absorb around 500 milligrams of vitamin C at the time. That's how much the actual digestive tract can absorb. So that's exactly what we included inside Immune Booster RX, because you're also getting vitamin C from a healthy diet. So we want to give you the research-backed dose. Vitamin C is amazing. A lot of people don't realize that vitamin A is a great immune booster. Our entire respiratory and digestive tract, as we've talked about throughout this presentation, is lined with these mucous membranes. And what vitamin A does, it actually keeps that mucous membrane nice and tight and strong. So foreign invaders, whether those viruses or bacteria, have a harder time entering into the body. And it also helps our bodies express something called immunoglobulin 1 on that mucous membrane that catches those invading particles, those invading viruses and bacteria, and it's just a very, very good immune booster. So vitamin A, also essential. We included 100% of your recommended daily intake of that. Vitamin D3, vital for our immune system. We've talked throughout this entire presentation on circadian rhythm, the need for sun, and we also know that all of the white blood cells express vitamin D3 receptors. It's absolutely essential, and so many people are vitamin D3 inadequate. So they're just not getting enough sunshine, they're not getting enough high quality
quality stuff from their foods. They may be living in a place where you're not getting enough vitamin C from the sun, wearing sunscreens, etc. So we want to make sure with Immune Booster RX, taking this daily, you're getting your active form of vitamin D3, the best form that your immune system can immediately use to increase your immune strength. And it's not just the immune system vitamin D3 boost. It has so many other dramatic health benefits, but we also get the immune benefit from taking it. Vitamin B6 basically helps all these chemical reactions that the immune cells need to carry out their strengthening activities and fighting the viruses and bacteria. And then zinc, although it's not a vitamin, it's probably the most important mineral for increasing the immune system. Actually, zinc stimulates the production of white blood cells, and it actually prevents certain viruses from replicating inside the body. So, for example, with the coronavirus, zinc inside the cell can prevent coronavirus from replicating. This is why it's really important to keep zinc status. And zinc is not just beneficial against coronavirus, it's beneficial versus a whole class of different viral compounds, and it also stimulates, as I said, your white blood cell production. So these vitamins and minerals are absolutely key, but we also need the second class called the herbs and phytochemicals. So these are special compounds that are found in plants that have a profound benefit on the immune system. And the first thing we included inside of Immune Booster RX that we absolutely knew was a must was elderberry. Elderberry is one of the best immune boosters around, and research shows it actually fights the flu. It prevents flu from entering into cells and flu from replicating, and it also has a bunch of antioxidants. The elderberry actually kind of looks like a little bit like a blueberry, and we included this elderberry inside Immune Booster RX, inside the research-backed dose, because every year we're constantly being bombarded with different viruses, and elderberry keeps our immune system strong. The next herb we included was echinacea. This stimulates white blood cell production while actually reducing inflammation. And the amazing thing about these phytochemicals is that they're powerful. They're research-backed to influence the immune system. You know, we obviously are doing all the sleep, the good eating, the exercise, the sunshine, the circadian rhythm, but just taking these alone is giving us a huge immune boost, especially if we're stressed and we know we have inflammation, etc. This basically covers our bases. So echinacea, also amazing. And we included another herb called astragalus that has an immune modulating effect and also reduces inflammation. So there are some people that have these autoimmune conditions where the immune system is too heightened. What astragalus helps do is actually balances and normalizes the immune system, and it's a compound of things that we're going to talk about in a second called an adaptogen. It actually helps make the body more resilient to stress. And as we know, this is key. When the body's stressed, cortisol's high, immune system's low. Astragalus helps basically prevent that and reduce inflammation. Again, this is also inside Immune Booster RX. And finally, we included an amino acid found in green tea called L-theanine. And one of the reasons we wanted to include L-theanine here is not just because it provides a relaxing effect on the body and it actually calms the mind. It's kind of like a focus amino acid that helps you really just get calm and focused. Research shows that for people who exercise the stress on the body, it can raise cortisol. L-theanine actually prevents the immune system decreases that can happen with heavy exercise. And what they found is in a lot of athletes who are doing lots of training sessions, they often get sick more often. They're exercising, but they're getting more sick because they're going too hard. Well, L-theanine basically helps the immune system keep up with that exercise demand. So if you're someone who's doing a lot of extra fitness stuff for weight loss, for muscle building purposes, L-theanine is a great thing to have. Again, we included that inside Immune Booster RX. And I just want to point out here, the vitamin C, the A, the D3, B6, zinc, and all these herbs and phytochemicals aren't just helping your immune system. They're doing so many other things. It just so happens they're great immune boosters. They're reducing inflammation. They're giving you more focus. They're giving you more energy. All these things have widespread functions. It's just when it comes to the immune system, these are some of the hero compounds. And finally, one other class of compounds we want to include inside Immune Booster RX are adaptogenic mushrooms. These are adaptogens, as I mentioned when we were talking about astragalus, are basically compounds that help make the body more resilient to stress. So again, a little bit of stress is good because it causes our bodies to strengthen and adapt. But when we're constantly bombarded by stress, that's when our immune system gets depressed. That's when our energy levels go down. We find that we're gaining weight, etc. So this is why adaptogens are absolutely amazing. They give your body more stress resilience. And these mushrooms like chaga, reishi, shiitake, maitake, turkey tail are powerful adaptogens. Right now there's a lot of research on, for example, turkey tail. They're using it to fight cancers. Turkey tail actually raises the immune system and strengthens it and actually targets and kills cancer cells. Chaga is another one that actually influences a whole slew of viruses. It actually can help fight the flu and has direct immune stimulating effects against viruses. Reishi, shiitake, maitake, again, great adaptogens. The key thing with these adaptogens, though, is they must be taken long term. term on a continuous dose. And that's the same with a lot of these supplements. It's not just like you take these when you're sick, you take them on an ongoing basis so you have a strong immune system that not only gets sick less, but when you do, these compounds are already waiting around so they can jump on things, help your immune system be very strong. So overall, we included the vitamins and minerals to boost your immune strength inside our Immune Booster RX, the herbs and phytochemicals that we just talked about, and the adaptogenic mushrooms. So basically, this is a stress-busting, immune-strengthening, energy-producing supplement that we absolutely love. And going out and getting all these things on your own in small little products is just way too expensive and not necessary because we got it all for you in this daily Immune Booster RX. You take this daily, you have your bases covered. This is an incredible supplement. My family and I take this every single day. So, full action steps from this presentation. I hope you've learned a lot. The first thing is improve your circadian rhythm and sleep. Get sunshine in the morning, so that's going to help that with that serotonin production that later in the night gets converted into melatonin, and we want to make sure we're protecting our melatonin at night, which is huge for the immune system, by avoiding the blue light. The next thing is we want to eliminate processed sugars from your life. Sugar kills the immune system, makes those immune cells basically drunk. They just don't work as well. And so we want to get sugar out. And instead, we want to make sure that we're eating lots of colorful produce, ideally organic. So the rainbow of different kinds of fruits and veggies, the colors that make these things colorful are those unique phytochemicals. The stuff that makes like the elderberry blue is some of these unique phytochemicals that make these things so powerful. And we also want to eat probiotic foods for those good gut bacteria because they defend our immune tract. And we also want to get the prebiotic fibers, where do you think those are? In that colorful produce, so it all feeds to itself. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables and some fermented foods. And we want to add some spices to your diet. So a lot of our dishes inside our Fit Father and Fit Mother programs involve these spices. Garlic, cinnamon, ginger, cayenne. These things are not just for flavor, they're truly medicinal. Absolutely fantastic. Include them in your meals. Next, we want to walk for 30 minutes daily, ideally in the morning for the sunshine and the vitamin D3 regulation. Again, this is not the same thing as exercise. Exercise are formal workouts for the purposes of stimulating muscle building or boosting the metabolism or stimulating fat loss. Daily walking is just what is required by this body to be healthy. Get the walk, ideally in the sunshine. It's going to help you tremendously, and it's going to get that immune system and keep it strong. And then we're going to do these formal workouts that we teach you inside our Fit Father and Fit Mother programs 3 times per week. And we're going to be mindful of stress levels. But again, with something like Immune Booster RX, you have that L-theanine amino acid in there that helps keep your immune system strong amidst the stress pressures of exercise. So we built this in already. You don't need to think about it. Just follow along with our programs, take these supplements, and you're good to go. And finally, we also talked about fasting, right? Practice that 24-hour fasting for overall good health. It's just like something you can do weekly. We teach this in our phase 2 of our Fit Father and Fit Mother programs, the dinner to dinner fast habit, because again, it gives that body a chance to rest the digestive tract. It increases that growth hormone. It leads to the production of those new neurons and those new cells in the brain. It's absolutely fantastic. And then 3-day fasting, at least once per year, is great because the research, again, shows UCLA Medical School, it regenerates your immune system. Very, very powerful. I absolutely love this, and there's going to be more research coming out, mark my words, on prolonged fasting in the immune system, but you heard it here first. Now, improving your stress levels with meditation, journaling, any kind of therapy, exercise, etc. is key because we want to keep that cortisol balance. And we also talked about why taking Immune Booster RX daily, because it's research backed, we give you all the right dosages, and this is going to give you ongoing energy, ongoing immune defense, ongoing stress reduction, so your body is more resilient and you're just feeling great all the time. So I hope this bonus presentation was very valuable for you. These are the things that strengthen your immune system are the things that are going to keep you healthy and long for years and years to come. The same things we teach in our programs. So hope you found this valuable, my friend. Enjoy Immune Booster RX. Take it as a supplement. It's absolutely fantastic, and I look forward to continuing to serve you inside our programs, inside our videos on YouTube, inside our blog. You're absolutely amazing. Have an incredible day. Hope you found this valuable, and I'll talk to you very soon, my friend.